Hi, my name is Glorianna Jagfeld. I'm a third-year PhD student at the Spectrum Center for Mental Health Research at Lancaster University in the UK. In my PhD project, I'm looking at personal recovery and bipolar disorder, combining traditional health research methods with corpus and computational linguistic analysis of public online support forum posts. Today I'm presenting to you a recent project where we used natural language processing methods to profile Reddit users with a self-reported bipolar diagnosis. This is joint work with my supervisors Fiona Lobban and Steven Jones, both professors of clinical psychology, and Paul Rayson, a professor of natural language processing. Alright, so let's start with some background on bipolar disorder and motivation and aims of our study. Everybody experiences mood swings to some extent. However, when they become so extreme that they cause significant distress or interfere with functioning, people meet the criteria for bipolar disorder. Extreme mood experiences can be on the one hand mania, a very elated mood, and on the other hand depression. Such experiences are fairly common. On average, 2% of the populations across 11 international countries were estimated to meet criteria for this severe mental health issue at some point during their lives. While some people live well with bipolar disorder, it is often associated with lower quality of life and an increased suicide risk, making its prevention and treatment important tasks for society. Online support forums are spaces where people living with health or mental health conditions share information and provide peer support. Over the last 10 years, they have increasingly become data sources for research as well. Natural language processing studies have tried to predict people at risk of bipolar disorder from the language in their posts. Qualitative health research has explored the lived experience of bipolar disorder by a manual analysis of forum posts. Much of this research has used public posts from the international online discussion forum Reddit. On the right, you can see an anonymized and paraphrased example post from the largest bipolar subforum on Reddit. Compared to more traditional ways of data collection in clinical research, like trials, surveys, or qualitative interviews, online forum data has several advantages. Importantly, it is available in large quantities and it does not suffer from an interviewer or survey bias. On the other hand, there is little or no information available on forum users, especially on Reddit. However, for clinical research, it is very important to know to which populations findings or models can generalize to. But none of the bipolar disorder studies that use Reddit data so far had looked at the characteristics of the users they included in their analysis. Our paper closes this gap in the knowledge by answering the question, what characteristics of Reddit users who disclose a bipolar diagnosis can we automatically infer from their public Reddit information? Being an interdisciplinary team of researchers, we were also interested how the characteristics of Reddit users with a bipolar diagnosis compare to Reddit users in general and to the people who took part in more traditional clinical studies. Finally, studying online posts of a vulnerable population and profiling their characteristics raises a number of important ethical questions, which we also carefully consider in the paper. Okay, so let's see how we did this. I'll be very brief here about how we constructed our dataset because you can find the details in the paper. We relied on an established method in natural language processing to identify people who stated on Reddit that they had a bipolar diagnosis by matching patterns of self-reported diagnosis statements. That way, we identified almost 20,000 users and downloaded all of their 20 million posts. We selected 4 user characteristics because of their clinical relevance and because natural language processing methods were available for them. For other self-reported mental health diagnoses, we relied on the same pattern matching approach as for identifying users with a bipolar diagnosis, with different sets of terms for 8 other mental health diagnoses, such as depression, anxiety disorder, and autism. For age, we evaluated two available methods, namely we implemented a simple extraction approach with regular expressions that makes use of self-reports, like in the example shown at the bottom of the slide. We also applied a published neural network-based model based on users' post texts. For country of residence, we used the only published method so far, which is a statistical model based on the distribution of words, posts per subreddit, and posts per hour of the day. Finally, for binary gender, we used the same two methods as for age, and in addition, another published neural network-based method that infers gender from Reddit usernames. As I said earlier, there are a lot of ethical considerations to take on board when conducting research with vulnerable populations, like people living with severe mental health issues, and particularly when using their public online posts to profile them. Reddit terms and conditions allow the analysis of public posts, and we didn't seek informed consent from the 20,000 users in our dataset, because this would have been infeasible. Nevertheless, we take great care to protect their anonymity by removing their usernames from the dataset and only reporting paraphrased texts. In the paper, we provide detailed rationales for the selection, category labels, and methods of inference or extraction for each of the 4 user characteristics. This complies with the ethical requirement to collect as little data on participants as is necessary. We also discussed that even conducted with the best intentions, virtually any research project could be used in potentially harmful ways. We tried to mitigate this by releasing our dataset only under a usage agreement, where other researchers have to abide to the same ethical standards that we set out in the paper. Great! So let's turn to the really exciting part, our results and their implications. In the interest of time, I can only discuss a small part of our findings here and have to refer to you to the paper for more details. We manually evaluated the accuracy of all of our methods, for which you can find details in the paper. The country identification method achieved 78% accuracy. For age and gender, where we tried multiple methods, we obtained our final predictions by combining the methods based on their accuracy. This hybrid approach is also described in the paper and reaches above 97% accuracy on our manually labeled set of users. In addition to the age and gender characteristics I'll show you on the next slide, we found that more than half of the users reported having received at least one other mental health diagnosis besides bipolar, and more than 80% were living in the US. As you can see here, age and gender in the population of Reddit users who disclose a bipolar diagnosis are quite different from average Reddit users. Reddit users who disclose a bipolar diagnosis tend to be older than average Reddit users. We can also compare our user characteristics with clinical research, for example, with a large meta-analysis of psychological interventions for bipolar that included 55 trials from 12 countries comprising more than 6,000 adults. The mean age of users in our sample was 30 years, and in this meta-analysis, 90% of the studies had recruited participants who were older than this on average. Now, for binary gender, we can see that the masculine-feminine ratio of Reddit users who disclose a bipolar diagnosis is roughly balanced. This is quite different to Reddit users overall, who tend to be predominantly male. Psychological studies for bipolar disorder often tend to recruit more women. For example, in the meta-analysis of psychological trials, 2/3 of the trials had recruited a higher percentage of females than 52%. In summary, our study is the first large-scale characterization of Reddit users who disclose a bipolar disorder diagnosis. In doing so, we evaluated state-of-the-art methods to infer Reddit users' characteristics and demonstrated how they can benefit applied research. The characteristics of the users in our sample aligned with epidemiological statistics on the prevalence and onset of bipolar disorder, but they strongly deviated from average Reddit users and from participants in clinical studies. This highlights the need to consider the characteristics of the specific population and not only to refer to what is known about the users of some platform in general. It also shows that Reddit users can be a complementary source of research participants for clinical studies. Thank you very much for your attention. This slide shows an overview of our main results on the characteristics of Reddit users with a bipolar diagnosis. Now, I'm looking forward to the other talks and the discussion, and please feel free to reach out to me via email or Twitter.